Imagine this. You are standing in a large, busy building. There are signs everywhere. Arrows pointing left, arrows pointing right. Screens on the walls and ceiling with names and numbers that change every few seconds. People pulling rolling bags in every direction. A voice comes over the speaker and makes an announcement. You hear it, but you're not sure if it's meant for you. You are at the airport, alone, and you're about to get on a plane. For many English learners, airports are one of the most stressful places to use English, not because the words are difficult, but because when you're nervous and in a hurry, even simple words can feel impossible to find. Today, we are going to change that. By the end of this episode, you will know how to check in at the airport, go through security, find your gate, and stay calm when something doesn't go exactly as planned, all in English. This is day 18 of your 30-day English journey. Day 18. You are now in the final stretch of phase 2. 18 days of showing up. 18 days of listening. That is something worth noticing. Today, Sarah takes her first solo trip, a long weekend in Boston. She has been to the airport before, but always with someone else, always following someone who already knew the way. This time, it is just her bag, her plan, her first time doing this alone. Let's go. It was Monday. Sarah's alarm went off at 4:30 in the morning. She had packed the night before. One small rolling bag, one backpack that she would carry onto the plane. She stood in the doorway of her apartment for a moment and looked back in. The kettle, the blanket on the couch, the window she had been standing at just yesterday, watching the rain. She had booked this trip 3 weeks ago, the day after she submitted her portfolio for the Brooklyn Creative Awards. She had needed something to look forward to. 4 days in Boston. Just her, a sketchbook, and no deadlines. No client emails, no calendar reminders. She turned off the light and closed the door. The taxi arrived at 4:47. The driver was a quiet man with a gray beard and a travel mug on the dashboard. He loaded her rolling bag into the trunk without being asked. "JFK?" he said. "Yes, please," Sarah said. "Terminal 4. Early flight?" 7:15. He nodded. "You'll be fine. Traffic's nothing at this hour." Sarah looked out the window as they crossed into the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway. The city was nearly still. No one on the streets. The street lights made long orange lines on the wet pavement. She liked seeing it like this, before it woke up, before the noise. "First time flying alone?" the driver asked. He said it the way people say things they already know the answer to. Sarah smiled. "That obvious?" "You keep checking your pockets," he said. She laughed and stopped checking her pockets. "It's easier than you think," he said. "Just follow the signs. The airport tells you everything you need to know." She looked out the window again. In the distance, the lights of JFK appeared, low and wide and very bright against the dark November sky. The airport was already busy by the time she arrived. Sarah wheeled her bag through the main doors and stopped for just a moment. The hall was enormous. High ceilings, bright lights, the hum of hundreds of people moving at once. She looked up at the signs. Departures, the section of an airport where flights leave from. If you are catching a flight, you go to departures. Sarah followed the arrows. She found her airline's check-in area and joined a short line. To check in means to officially arrive at the airport, confirm that you are on the flight, and if you have a bag to leave with the airline, hand it over. You can check in online before you arrive, which Sarah had already done, or you can check in at the counter when you get there. When it was her turn, she stepped up. The agent was a woman in her 40s with a neat uniform and the calm, efficient manner of someone who had done this 10,000 times. "Good morning. Destination?" "Boston," Sarah said. She put her passport on the counter. The agent scanned it. "Any bags to check today?" "Just this one." Sarah lifted her rolling bag onto the belt. "And that's your carry-on?" The agent nodded at Sarah's backpack. A carry-on is a bag small enough to bring onto the plane with you. You keep it in the cabin, above your seat or under the seat in front of you. Most airlines allow one carry-on bag plus one smaller personal item like a purse or a laptop bag. "Yes," Sarah said, "just the backpack." The agent printed a sticker tag, attached it to the rolling bag, and watched it move onto the belt behind her. Then she slid a small card across the counter. "Your boarding pass." A boarding pass is the document, paper or digital, that allows you to get on the plane. It shows your name, your flight number, your seat number, and your gate. It is the one thing you absolutely cannot lose. Sarah looked at hers. Seat 14A, gate B12, boarding 6:50. "Have a great trip," the agent said. "Thank you," Sarah said. She meant it more than the agent probably realized. Security was ahead. Security, sometimes called the security checkpoint, is the area where officers check your bags and your ID before you can enter the gate area. You put your shoes, your jacket, your belt, and your bags into flat plastic trays. Everything goes through a scanning machine. You walk through an arch. If it doesn't beep, you're through. If it does, you wait, and someone checks. Sarah had done this part before. She knew the routine. She took off her shoes without being asked, took off her jacket, put her phone and her keys into a pocket of her backpack, placed everything into the gray tray and pushed it forward. The line moved slowly. In front of her, a family, 2 parents, 3 children, 1 stroller, was trying to sort everything into trays. The youngest child was holding a stuffed bear and refusing to let it go. The father was negotiating patiently. The mother was trying not to laugh. Sarah waited. She had time. She did not mind. When her turn came, she walked through the arch quietly. Nothing beeped. On the other side, she collected her things, laced up her shoes, and stood up. She looked at the terminal ahead of her, long and bright, stretching in both directions, lined with gates as far as she could see. She felt something settle in her chest, a small, quiet kind of calm. To navigate means to find your way through an unfamiliar or complicated place, reading signs, following numbers, figuring out where you are supposed to go. Sarah had always liked navigating. It felt like a puzzle with a solution you could actually find. Gate B12. She checked the board. She started walking. She found gate B12 at 6:08, 42 minutes before boarding. She found a window seat near the gate, set her backpack down, and took out her sketchbook. Then the screen above the gate changed. Boston, Florida, 417, delayed, new departure. Delayed. When a flight does not leave at its scheduled time, it is delayed. It is late. In this case, it was almost 2 hours late. Sarah looked at the screen for a moment. Then she opened her sketchbook and picked up her pencil. Okay, she thought. 80 more minutes. The man sitting 1 seat over had noticed the screen at the same time. He made a small sound, somewhere between a sigh and a quiet laugh. "First delay of the morning," he said. He was around 60, wearing a navy jacket with a small airline pin on the lapel, reading glasses pushed up on his forehead. He had the relaxed manner of someone who had been delayed many, many times. "Does this happen often?" Sarah asked. "November weather in Boston, yes." He folded his newspaper onto his lap. "You traveling for work?" "No," Sarah said. "Just for me." He nodded, like that was exactly the right answer. Best reason to go anywhere, he said. He held out his hand. Frank. Sarah. First time in Boston? Yes. You'll like it, he said simply. He unfolded his newspaper again. Not to be rude, just to be comfortable. Sarah appreciated that. She turned back to her sketchbook and started drawing the gate, the rows of seats, the window, the gray November sky outside, and the plane sitting still on the tarmac, waiting. At 8:03, a voice came over the speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now ready to begin boarding Flight 417 to Boston. We will start with passengers who need extra time, followed by Group 1. To board means to get onto the plane. When the gate agent calls your group, you line up, show your boarding pass, and walk down the jetway, the enclosed bridge that connects the gate to the plane. Sarah was in Group 2. She waited. When her group was called, she zipped up her sketchbook, put on her backpack, and joined the line. She showed her boarding pass. She walked down the jetway. She found seat 14A. She lifted her backpack and put it into the overhead bin, the storage compartment above the seats, and sat down. She buckled her seatbelt. She looked out the window. The tarmac was gray and wide. Other planes were parked in rows, their wings still. A luggage cart drove slowly past. The November sky above it all was flat and white. The cabin filled around her, overhead bins closing one by one. The flight attendant began the safety demonstration. Sarah watched it, even though she had seen it before. And then, slowly, the plane began to move. It turned away from the gate. It moved toward the runway with a kind of slow, patient certainty, like it had done this 1,000 times and would do it 1,000 more. The runway stretched out ahead. The engines grew louder. The plane accelerated. And then, lift. Sarah looked out the window as New York fell away below her. The grid of streets, the two rivers, silver in the morning light. The parks, like dark green patches, pressed into the city. And somewhere in there, her apartment, her couch, her window with the rain on it. She pressed her fingers to the cold glass for a moment. Then she opened her sketchbook to a fresh page. She wasn't sure yet what she would draw in Boston. She would figure that out when she got there. Right now, for the first time in a long time, she had nowhere she had to be, and 4 whole days to find out what that felt like. Today, Sarah took her first solo trip. She packed her bag the night before, took a taxi through a dark and quiet Brooklyn, checked in at JFK, went through security, found gate B12, and waited through a 2-hour delay, calmly, sketchbook open, and finally boarded her flight to Boston. Let's review today's vocabulary. To check in, to officially arrive at the airport and confirm you are on the flight. A boarding pass, the document that allows you to get on the plane. It shows your seat, your gate, and your flight number. A carry-on, a bag small enough to bring onto the plane with you, stored above your seat or under the seat in front. Security, the checkpoint where officers check your bags and ID before you enter the gate area. A gate, the specific door in the airport where you board your plane. A departure, when a flight leaves. Departures is also the section of the airport for outgoing flights. To navigate, to find your way through an unfamiliar place. Delayed, when a flight is late and does not leave at its scheduled time. To board, to get onto the plane. The overhead bin, the storage compartment above your seat on the plane. Day 18 done. If you finished today's episode, type Day 18 done in the comments. Tell us, are you someone who arrives 3 hours early or 30 minutes before the gate closes? I'd love to know. Tomorrow is day 19. Sarah arrives in Boston and checks into her hotel. And she discovers that booking a room in English is a whole conversation of its own. Room types, check-in times, what's included, we'll cover everything you need. Keep listening, keep learning. See you tomorrow.